But the thing is, the flood's coming anyway. Like the waters are coming to you. There's no dry ground, so you might as well, jump in and grab a life raft rather than try to stay on the shrinking island.
The ship is gonna suck us down. Take a deep breath when I say. Ready?
Hey guys, Raf here from the Endgame Investor with this month's installment with Phil Lowe of the Bitter End Game Draft. The end game gets closer and closer. We can feel it. It's in the air. It's in the atmosphere. It's all around us. People are, I wouldn't say they're not quite getting desperate yet, but people are getting pinched, getting squeezed. If you've noticed it among your family, among your circle of friends and acquaintances, it's getting a little bit more obvious. Phil and I have some stuff to talk about this week. I'm just going to read off the topic so you know what we're going to be saying, basically. So this was Phil's suggestions here. The first is Trump's semi-controlled demolition of the system, particularly US-EU breakup and empire dissolution. Yes, it looks like the entire post-World War II geopolitical chessboard is being reorganized, or it's totally flipped, or somebody's just wiping all the pieces off the board, and looks like we're going to start over. We have NPCs, or non-playable characters, and how this is related to Trump's semi-controlled demolition of the system, which Phil can talk about with some authority because he lives right next to the DC cage match. What do you want to call DC? It's like now it's a draining swamp, and when swamps get drained, the mosquitoes get pissed off, and you got to run away. And the third one is either something from the Bible, or I thought of a third topic: the return of haggling to market transactions, the endgame and aftermath. Or maybe we'll do both. I have a few things that I found in the Torah the past few weeks. They could be interesting to people who believe in a silver standard and a safe place to put your money. Phil, how's your life been the last month?
Oh, I'm doing great. Everything's fine, and I'm really happy that empiricism is now matching our logic. Because before, when the party's going strong, it's hard to be like, guys, everybody, you should start sacking a little bit of silver and gold. But, when there's a smell of panic in the air, now suddenly more people listen to you, and it's also nice just to be confirmed, because otherwise, if the party just goes on forever, then you start wondering, am I a crackpot? Am I insane? So all these are good things in my view.
Yeah, what panic are you seeing?
Oh, people are like, I need to go find a job in the private sector. Actually, I'll talk about the NPC. I'll talk about a story with the NPCs when we get to that point.
Mhm.
People are saying, they're upset. They're upset at losing their jobs. They were saying I was doing valuable bean counting for whichever department.
In very short order, Leela has become a fan favorite.
All that kind of stuff around here. So
You're talking about the government sector. You're talking about DC workers, right?
yes, yes.
Okay, so they're in a
But
depression. I remember that Peter Schiff had said something like this for many years when I used to listen to him years ago. He was like, "We need a recession in DC, and that's when we know the economy is healing itself. When there's a real recession in DC, which appears to be happening right now. Thank God, it's got to get deeper and more desperate. The more desperation in DC, the better for all of us, I think."
yes, and the feeder, the people in DC, they earn real money, so, or not real money, but they earn good money, good fake money. So
Mhm.
the people that cater to them are also now suffering as well. The sandwich shops and things like that.
Okay, so just give us a rundown of what's going on in the Capitol. What's the mood there like? Give us a report because I really have no idea. I live in the middle of nowhere, and that's where I'm staying here. I'm not going to any capital cities. Forget it.
Yeah. So the last time I was actually in the capital city, the people were still sort of pretending the party's going on. I
Mhm.
stay. I feel like the Capitol could be engulfed in flame at any moment. So I
Like
don't.
literally or figuratively? What do you mean?
I think large scale stuff could happen. Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't think it'll happen until the music stops and people start rushing for the chairs. But I don't know when that's going to be. So I just stay away from crowded centers as well. I try and stay out fairly rural as I can get anyway.
Mhm.
But in the surrounding area, in the greater surrounding area, yeah, I'm noticing a lot of negative attitude. Like the energy's gone. It's already starting to psychologically take a toll on people. I've heard people complain like I moved here, for the to be in the education system, and now it looks like all this might be upended. And really, it's just, there was a huge amount of money pouring into DC from the rest of the world, and it's no longer, the spigot's getting turned off, and people that were, and these are not bad people, uh, the viewers might think like, oh, everyone is just Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer around here, and that's not true. There's a lot of good people who just, you follow the price signal. You say,
You
oh,
know,
there's a job.
including yourself, right? I mean, you work for the
Yes, that's
government.
exactly right. I did that. If you look at you look at the job offers, you say, "Oh, there's a good job there. I'll apply for that," and you get it, and you end up working there. Now, I have the foresight. I learned. I had a great professor in college. His name was Larry Iannacone, and he said, "Never ever put your savings in the same sector." Now, he was just thinking of investment in the dollar terms. He wasn't thinking about gold and silver, but he said, never ever put the savings in the same sector as your job, because if you lose your job, then you lose your savings too. Like, so don't, like, if you work for IBM, don't invest in IBM, right? Because if they're having trouble and they lay you off, you're going to be in trouble. So I've always had this thing of like, whatever you're working in, invest in the opposite. That way you always balance out. So I was mentally ready to get to be very, very flexible already, and I was already looking for stuff. So personally, I'm okay, and anyone who's listening to me is probably doing pretty well and okay too. It's the people who are still NPCing, and like I said, we'll talk about that on topic too, because I do have a great story about that. But those are the people who are starting, like, they've reached the end of their programming and they don't know what to do.
Hmm. So so let's get into the first topic here, the semi-controlled
Sure.
demolition of the system, particularly the US EU breakup and empire dissolution. You know, I have a basic sense for what's going on, but unlike monetary philosophy and economics, I can't produce out of my own head what is actually what, like a cogent theory. I listen, and then when I hear something that makes sense, I'm like, oh yeah, that's probably it, and that's bullshit, and this isn't. With money, I can do it myself, but with geopolitics, I got to find someone who knows what they're talking about, and then either identify it as true or just fantasy. So I'm not sure what's going on. Um, I think you have a better head for that than I do. I'm not sure, but what's
Maybe.
what do you got to say, and I'll riff off of I'll riff off of your theories.
Sure. So what I'm looking for, why I'm happy about this is that the party is going to end, and it's going to end very suddenly, and you people are going to be absolutely shocked at how little you can do when you don't have any money. I mean, like, if you imagine your own personal life, right? If you're stuck in let's say you went on a trip to Cleveland and your wallet got stolen, and you have to make your way back to Pennsylvania, and you're just like, like, how do you go and ask somebody, can you give me a lift? No. You go and ask 10 other people. No. Maybe somebody gives you a lift to a gas station where you can call somebody, or your phone got stolen too, whatever. Can I borrow your phone? No.
Anybody here going to San Francisco? I need a ride. I've got $18 and 78 cents for a ride to San Francisco.
So when you enter that state of penury, people are going to be shocked at how little we can get done. And the problem is we have 10 active navies, we have soldiers in every corner of the world. If we can't get gas to fuel the planes, how are we going to get these people home? And things will temporarily, collapse to that level where it's like, well, where do we get gas from? I don't know. How do we get some gold or silver to get the gas into our planes so we can go get them, because the credit's all gone. So I'd much rather, Trump be like Samson and start tearing the temple down now than just have the earthquake come and tear the temple down for us when we are strategically dislocated. The military, the people who were sent out. And I would much rather people get used, Europeans get used to the idea that no, like we're not doing this anymore. We're going back home. We're going back to the 1890s where we tend our own garden. And good luck in Europe.
Yeah. All right. So what do you think Trump is trying to do on the international stage? Does he
So
think that if we break up the international order, like he'll save the country and then it'll prosper again? Because that's not possible. But he does. I don't know what's his gusto and what's his bravado and what he actually believes. It's all so blurry.
yeah, I mean I do not have faith that this guy is going to lead us into the shining land without consequence at all. No, not at all. And he doesn't quite know where he's going either because he's, pumping, he has the crypto reserves, things like that. There is plenty of stuff I do not like about what Donald Trump is doing, and he doesn't know what money is, and his advisors don't know what money is, and so there's still the blind leading the blind. But instinctually, he is doing things like, well, if you don't reverse the trade flows and start buying our stuff, which cannot happen, it cannot happen without the dollar dying. But he doesn't know that. So he's trying to tell Canada and Mexico and Europe, you need to buy our stuff too and send our dollars back. And the leaders in Europe, they also don't know what money is, but they have a instinctual understanding if the trade flows reverse, their gravy trains are over. So they are
Yeah.
fighting that tooth and nail.
But
So
also with the United States. I mean, what Americans don't understand, especially Trump doesn't understand, and the general right-wing conservative Republican doesn't understand, is it's the trade deficits that are saving the country.
yeah,
Because a trade deficit means, by definition, you get more stuff, you ship out more dollars, so you have fewer dollars and more stuff. That keeps prices suppressed, keeps
yeah.
prices down, keeps things affordable. The minute you balance your trade deficits, you have more dollars and less stuff, and prices of everything go way up. I mean, it's just basic logic, but you tell that to people, and it's just like there's like blank looks, or like, but because they think, well, it can't be because a trade balance sounds like a good thing. So how could it lead to something that would cause me pain? I mean, they don't get past that.
Maybe this will refresh your memory.
I don't know, it's still kind of hazy.
How about this?
Yeah, I remember him. I used to see him around. Why do you want to know? Maybe this'll help.
I still don't think I should tell you.
Can you spot me at 20? How about now?
I wouldn't use the term save the country. I would say keep the scam going, but
Okay.
but keep the illusion of saving the country. No,
Yeah.
I do understand what you're saying. I do get it completely. Yeah, the the people who are on the gravy train, that's one of the things I realize when I'm trying to convince people, like, hey, you need to stack, is that many of them are on the gravy train at some form or another, and it's just this instinctual desire to keep the gravy train going because the reversal of the flows is going to be very harsh and unforgiving time for a lot of people. And so they want to keep the gravy train going as much as possible. Now, because he's such a combative person, right? And he seems to have this instinctual thing that like people are trying to screw him over, whether rightly or wrongly. And he's
You mean
extending that
Trump?
to,
You mean
yeah,
Trump? Okay.
yeah, and he's extending that to America as well. He's like, oh, everyone's trying to eat our lunch and screw us over. Therefore, he goes into these meetings, with all the bluster and bravado and, you're not doing your fair share, blah, 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 blah. And that there's a second order effect there of him saying, well, you know what? I'm going to pull the troops out of NATO or out of Europe until you guys come to your senses and start trading with us.
Well,
So,
that's a good thing. I mean, I'm for Ron Paul's been saying this ever since the 80s. Like we've got troops in 90 countries, blah blah blah, bases everywhere. We got to pull it all out. And on the one hand, that sounds great. On the other hand, um, let's say go back to like 2010, 2011, 2012, first being introduced to libertarian thought, and then you think, well, if everything is anarcho-capitalist, then you have these sort of naive ideas that, oh, let's just get rid of all the borders and let people go where they want, and then they'll that's the ideal world, and it's like, John Lennon Imagine all the people, and they go, and then like, but like as you get, like maybe it's the function of me getting older, plus now having some amount of money that I want to, protect and not being in my early 20s. And also the prospect of Arabs coming over and invading the country and then killing all the Jews, which is, a clear and present danger all the time. Really need to have borders and exclude certain groups from our country. And it's just not logical to have a borderless world. It cannot work. So how that extends to empire is, well, look, the fact is America conquered the world. And now what would happen if they just pulled every soldier out from outside their borders? What does the world look like the next day? And I don't know, it might be kind of scary. I mean, this might not be something you can just reverse the empire and then everything will be fine, which will be the effect of the end game. It'll all come to an end within a day or, a week or whatever it is that it takes from the point where gold keeps going up and up and up and the dollar keeps going down and down and down. You're going to have all these military bases stranded and the nightmare that everyone was afraid of when the Iron Curtain fell and the USSR fell was, okay, well, now you have this bankrupt country with all these nuclear weapons everywhere. Like, how are we going to keep them away from crazy people because they're going to be desperate for money? Well, now, with the fall of America, the question is going to be even more sharp, even sharper, because with the Soviet Union, you had theoretically still America was functioning, so they could stop the nuclear weapons from ending up in the hands of people for, a few bucks. But with the fall of America itself, who's going to stop that? I don't know. Besides God, I have no idea.
Yeah, well, it's worse than that, Rafi, because China's going to fall too, India's going to fall too, France is going to fall too. England is probably going to erupt in civil war. Um,
Between who?
the 25% of the immigrants that arrived over the last 10 years and the native population who is being, rather harshly oppressed by the government to
Hmm.
force them to take in the immigrants. I mean, there are rumblings that I've heard people discussing, like England is primed for like a dirty war, like just the rural people burning and simmering with complete hatred at the urban
Hmm.
cores. So that's
Hmm.
it's really primed for something like that to pop off. Now, hopefully it doesn't, but I'm just saying it could easily happen. I think it could easily happen in the end game.
They became democratic when America just like basically conquered the entire continent and said, "You're going to do it this way. Now shut up." And then everyone's like, "Oh yeah, we're a democracy." But France isn't democratic. They keep having new republics and revolutions. I think it's the fifth or sixth one. And there's no democracy there. There's especially no democracy in Germany. They have the word democracy, but then they have all these free speech police
Yeah.
that are invading people's apartments for memeing. And you listen. I was listening to Matt Taibbi and Walter Kern today on America This Week. Walter Kern, he's my go-to geopolitics guy. Like he has a sense for what's really going on and how to distill it into a few sentences. But basically, Germany's turning into another Nazi dictatorship just from the other direction. They're
Yeah.
they're they're getting way back. They're getting right back into it. Europe was never a libertarian leaning continent. It was always about enslavement, and it's going back to that. It's definitely going back to that.
So I want to put a ray of sunshine in here.
Mhm.
Part of the problem with the America conquering the world was that we then had a monopoly. And just like anytime you have a monopoly, you have higher prices and lower quality. That's just the way monopolies work. And this was a monopoly on the money supply. When America collapses, we're going to have competitive monies again, a lot of competitive monies. And so people are going to have to, the people in charge of these monies are going to have to be competitive with each other. And with honest money, I think we can have better governance around the entire world. So I'm hopeful that even Europe and England and everyone will once the competition starts and we all have honest money and we're all trading in gold and honest gold derivatives again, that things could be a good bit brighter.
Mhm.
So, without the monopoly. Now, look, I mean, I'm not a Pollyanna. I understand, the world is the Germans had a great saying before World War One. They said peace is the interval between wars. So wars are the defining event, and peace is the sort of the interval where you build up your resources and prepare for the next one. I don't subscribe to that model. I'm just saying there is a tendency for things like that to break out. I hope they don't. I hope we have learned our lessons over time. And yeah, that's about it.
Oh, okay. So, what do you think? You're talking about the US EU breakup. Do you really think that America is going to pull out of NATO and pull their bases out of Europe? And what happens here? Does Putin
Oh,
invade at that point? What does Putin want, and what's he going to do if the US pulls out?
I don't so yeah, US will definitely pull out. We're broke. We're completely broke. Our army is, was it 13 times larger than all the other armies combined or something like that? We can't afford it at all. At all. I mean, we're going to have an extremely smaller army that's going to be based in America. I don't even know. My question is, how are we going to get those troops when the dollar dies? How are we going to get those troops out of their forward operating bases in Poland and back to US shores? I think that's going to be like one of those what's that story of, I think it's Cyrus. He's like stuck. It's like this Greek mercenary who ends up deep behind Persian lines and they have to fight their way back.
Hmm.
The movie The Warriors is based on that, the 1979 movie The Warriors. But they have to like these Greek mercenaries end up stuck way behind enemy lines and they have this grand adventure. They have to fight their way back home. It might even look like something like out of that. Um, and so no, yeah, the U.S. government is going to collapse by about 95 to 99%. There's it's I can say that with confidence because that is what the government looked like on a gold standard. Everything else is inflation. Every single other thing else is inflation. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to have a much smaller navy. We're going to have a much smaller army, and we're going to focus on our own borders. And we're going to be a much more localized country. We're not going to be the world's policeman anymore.
Right.
Now, Russia. So you asked about Putin. Russia's going to have the same problem. They have their currency is based on dollars. Even now, they haven't repegged to gold. So once they repeg to gold, they're going to have to say, "Well, geez, these wars are really expensive. Do we really want to do them?
Hmm.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
go ahead. I mean, look. We did have wars on a gold standard. We absolutely did have wars on a gold standard. But I think the initial aftermath, everyone's going to be reassessing are these, is this really worth it? That kind of question.
right. So you wanted to tie in NPCs to the first topic, and you had a story that you wanted to share. So
Yes. So,
lay it on me. What is it?
okay. So in my personal life, I help people, part of my channel and just in personal life, I talk to people and I say, hey, you should stack some gold and silver. And I try and take it down to the level of an everyman, because, not everyone sits around talking about economics all day, Rafi. This might surprise you. Or at least
I'm
not in a real,
shocked. Those people aren't real.
yeah, not in a real sense.
Yeah.
People sit around bitching about high prices, but that doesn't, they need to get control of inflation.
Hmm.
They're not sitting around like we are. So I was talking to a person, and this is one of the people who was like, the job is on the rocks, or maybe even gone now, and it's sort of like, well, what do I do? I'm a little bit despondent. And I sit down, okay, here's what I recommend thinking about doing, stacking a little bit of silver. What are your savings like? Well, and walking them through the whole process.
Hmm.
Find some work in the meantime to keep going, and stack a bit of silver and prepare for the end. And they're just like, well, yeah, but what do I do? And I kind of give them the Tucker Carlson look. Yeah, like I
Yeah.
just told you what to do. And I realized like it's not in their NPC dialogue tree. That's the way I see it. Like they have a set menu of responses. And for whatever reason, like I was outside of the realm of those responses. So they just defaulted back, well, to what do I do? And I
Hmm.
don't and I don't know why the concept of stacking some gold and silver has been removed from most people's dialogue trees. It's just not in.
Yeah. What they're saying, um, I haven't figured out exactly what an NPC really is. What kind of brain they have. I don't understand it.
I think it's a
Um,
person who's just not paying attention. We are apparently easily programmable, more so than I thought. People are, you hear messages that enters into your brain and you go, yes, okay, that must be true because it's being told to me many times in a row by lots of different sources. I mean, look what they were doing during COVID. I mean, did you have this? I had this in the grocery store. I would walk in the grocery store and it would say, the loudspeaker had this, artificially friendly voice, female voice saying, remember to stay 6 feet apart and always wear your masks. And remember, we're all in this together. And it would be like on repeat every 5 minutes. It was so dystopian, Rafi. Um, but people, a lot of people, it didn't rise to the surface level. It just stayed in the back of their brains and they just, oh, blah, blah.
Okay, so I'll put forward a theory based on a manuscript that I wrote in high school. I wrote a book that I called Free Will in the Men's Bathroom. I was trying to figure out like what is this thing free will? Like what does it even mean? Because most of us when we choose, we're not freely choosing. We're just choosing whatever we happen to think will derive us the most pleasure in that moment. That's all. So we're just following a pleasure calculus. It goes all the way down to picking a urinal in a football stadium, which is where I got the name of the book from. So you're going left, you're going right, either it's habit or it's a shorter line or whatever it is, doesn't matter. So when do we actually have the ability to choose something for real, as in like the essence of ourselves comes out and says, no, we got to go this way and not that way. So I came up with this theory that it happens very rarely in our life, right? There's this like primordial free will decision. Like the first time something or a big fork in the road comes in your life, and you have to decide, well, am I going to do the thing that makes sense? Or am I just going to follow this other, path here that's paved for me that I probably shouldn't go down that. But then if I go down this other one, where I can't see it because, the bushes are thick, I can't see where it's leading, but that seems to be the right one, whether it's a moral issue or an independence issue, or a self-expression, whatever it might be. So the first time that you encounter that in your life in a major way, it's scary, right? And if you choose the wrong path, then you train your soul to just like die down and stop yelling and stop complaining, right? I recall a conversation that my wife had with a friend of hers. She's going to work for the Misrad Chinuch, or the education ministry, because the whole thing is like planned out. Like, the first 10 years you get this salary, and then in the next 10 years you get a raise, and then you get all these perks, and you get seniority, and like everything's planned out from cradle to grave, or from, 20-year-old to like 60-year-old retirement, and that's it. And everything, like the whole path is planned. They invest your money, they have a pension plan for you. Everything's laid out. But you don't realize that you're signing up for a lifetime of slavery. And you can't really get out of it. So, so what I think these NPCs are, and I think this is the one of the main narratives in the Torah, in the Pentateuch, in the Exodus from Egypt, right? It's there's degrees and levels of freedom. 80% of the Israelites died in Egypt. Why? The rabbis say because they refused, because Moses gave them a command to go search for the gold and silver in their Egyptian um, counterparts' houses during the plague of darkness. And most of them didn't want to do it because it seemed rude, or they were just too scared. So they didn't do it. And those people died. We buried them during the plague of darkness when the Egyptians couldn't see. 20% are left, and they're the ones who searched. Um, uh, and then they took the gold. They didn't steal it then. They took the gold. For example, like if they go into the plague during the plague of darkness, and they find where the gold is, and then the next day, after the 10th plague, they say, look, give me your gold and silver. And they're like, oh, I don't have a gold and silver. But no, but I know it's in the upper drawer of your cabinet over there in the master bedroom, because they searched before. That was the idea of it. And then at the 10th plague, they're told to sacrifice the lamb, which is it represents what do you call it, the zodiac of the Egyptians. Right, I forgot what the name of the zodiac is. The equivalent of a lamb, whatever. Which one is it? Do you know the zodiac names? It's
Of the
in it's
Egyptians?
Yeah, no, it's the same zodiac as now. It's the March April one.
Oh, God, the ram is
Sagittarius.
yes, I think Sag. I was gonna say Capricorn, but I think that's a crab. So I'm gonna say
No, no. Okay, whatever it is. Who cares?
yeah.
Um, So that then you need okay, so you have enough freedom, you have enough independence to go search for the gold and silver. Do you have enough to slaughter their god and barbecue it in front of them? Well, okay, yeah, they do, but then they make it to the desert and then they're faced with the prospect of having to conquer a country now. Do they have the faith to do that? Do they have the confidence to do that? And the answer was no, they don't. So therefore, they have to die in the desert and wait for the next generation. It's not easy to get out of this NPC programming. It's pre-programming, and if you're a slave, your entire day is planned out before you, ahead of you, so you don't have to make any decisions. That's what that guy is saying when he's like, "Well, what do I do now?" And you're saying, "Well, you have to make decisions on your own. Here's what the first decision you have to make." But there's no plan. There's no like 401k
Yeah.
or IRA that's already like has me scared, already has a frame that I could just like put stuff in and click a button. But I have to do it myself. It's like they're too old for this now. You have to develop independence and freedom when you're young. And if you haven't, then you're freed from slavery. You end up like the blacks. A lot of them just like they still have a slave mentality. You can't force freedom on these people, and they're already dead inside.
Do you think everybody has a little NPC in them, or is this a thing where there are NPCs and there are non-NP and there are PCs?
No, I think it's a gradient of the development of a soul, right? Like if you don't feed yourself, or if you eat like crap when you're young, you eat
Yeah.
junk food when you're young, you're going to be unhealthy very quickly, and good fatty healthy food of a carnivore is going to be disgusting to you. So if you're able to develop it, to develop your soul, your neshama, or whatever, however you want to determine it, your appetite for liberty, if you develop it young, then you'll want to go in that direction. Like the whole idea of having your entire career laid out for you in a path paved by the state will disgust you, as it disgusts me. And this is why my wife didn't want to go down that path, and she refuses to work for the Misrad Chinuch, for the education ministry, because specifically because of this. But and it's here's another thing, like it's related to it. Like we were at a bar mitzvah in the Merkaz, in the center of the country, where all the population is, like the huge population centers. And we haven't lived there for like 16, 17 years. And now everything is so crazily built up. You can't see anything but buildings. So we were walking around the town that we lived in after we first got married for a year. And I was going through my head to think of who who do I still know that's here? Maybe I can call them. We can go out for coffee. And I called a friend of mine who's like a libertarian friend of mine, and it was like 5:30 in the afternoon, 5:30 in the evening, and I was like, oh, maybe he's home. So I called him. I was like, hey, I'm in town. Do you want to? Can I stop by, say hi? Do you want to, get a cup of coffee or something? He's like, ugh, I'm in Tel Aviv. I'm still at work. And I was like, what do you mean? It's 5:30. He was like, yeah, but I'm a lawyer, and U.S. hours are until 7, and I'm usually here like 2, 3 hours after 7 every day. And this guy has a wife and kids, and he's going from cubicle in Tel Aviv to cubicle in Givat Shmuel every day of his life. And he comes home at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. What the hell kind of life is this?
Human beings were not meant to sit in little cubicles staring at computer screens all day.
Yeah.
Like and he's a libertarian. I mean, they've caught them all, and
Yeah.
and thank God we have these relatively independent lives where with God's help we do this kind of stuff, and you're starting to get a following, and hopefully it can be enough that you can quit all the other stuff that you do, and you can just relax and think for a living. It's nice. I'm so glad that I don't have to be part of these drones, that whether they have free thought in their heads or not, they can't act on it because they're stuck in the system.
Yeah. The advice I would give to anyone who wants to think for a living is make sure your thoughts are correct, because if they're not, you're giving everyone very bad advice. I mean, there's a lot of people who are like thinking Keynesian thoughts for a living, and it's not that's not on the other side. That's not going to be profitable. You can't if when I think economist is going to be a dirty word on the other side when someone, well, actually, I know the answer to why this all happened, and it's some convoluted nonsense. And
Yeah, they'll punch you in the face.
yeah.
Uh,
All right. Anything else on NPCism? Um, let me ask you this. Can people be led out of NPC? And that's not to say like NPCs follow me and they just listen to me. Can they be led out of NPCism so that they become a PC?
yes, nobody's ever completely trapped in it. But the more you get in it, the farther, the harder it is to get out. I mean, we
No.
can. It's the same as a drug addict. Like once the drug addict reaches rock bottom, which means like I understand my life sucks and I cannot do this anymore, or I am going to die. Then he will look for ways to get out of it, and then hopefully he runs into the right people who can help him. But the first step to getting out of NPCism is to realize that you are one. And then you have to start exercising your own decision making ability, which, if you haven't exercised it ever, it's going to be very hard to do. But there's a concept in Judaism of kone olam b'sha'achas. You can acquire your portion in the world to come in a minute. It doesn't mean a portion. It doesn't mean you have a big one. It doesn't mean like you're gonna have the biggest portion of heaven among everyone just because you made the right decisions at the last minute. But it means that you can have like an aha moment and realize that everything you've been doing until now has been the wrong thing. And even that realization is enough to get you a little piece of eternity that you can even for if for 1 second you understand that you are an independent human being that has to think and feel and decide for himself, even that is enough to keep your soul alive.
The part of the problem is it's a big ask, especially for people who are still on the gravy on some sort of gravy. I mean, I can see it's a lot more clear to me now. Like once you're on that gravy train, even like your lawyer friend, even if it's even if it's a tough slavish job, his company respects him. He's getting probably very good money and or fake money. He's getting very
Yeah,
good
very
fake money.
good money that he has to use to pay his rent or his mortgage and live in the most
Yes,
expensive area in the country,
you get on the hamster
and
wheel,
never
yeah.
ever see a tree.
Or his children. Yeah.
Yeah, or his children.
Yeah, it's yeah, you can see that like it's hard to get off. It's really and the ask, my ask when I what am I telling people to do? I'm saying, well, you should liquidate your 401k and turn it into gold and silver, and then you might need to quit your job to make that happen. I mean, these are titanic shifts that require, someone to really be willing to, step into dangerous waters, potentially dangerous waters. But the thing is, the flood's coming anyway. Like the waters are coming to you. There's no dry ground, so you might as well, jump in and grab a life raft rather than try to stay on the shrinking island.
The ship is gonna suck us down. Take a deep breath when I say. Ready? Now!
That's my view anyway. I mean, people obviously have to make their own. I can't force anybody. I could just tell you if you come to me with the questions of what do I do, I'm going to tell you some unorthodox things. I think they're right. I think you should listen to me. But just coming back with, well, what do I do? Is not I understand where the mental block is. It's just you're gonna have to get past. I had to get past it. I had a 401k. That was hard. That was hard to be like, well, geez, what do I do? This is my life savings. If I'm wrong, I've lost my life savings.
Yeah. Look, I've had these thoughts that the people when I was in my 20s, late teenager, early 20s, and I was first starting to go into adulthood, like, am I gonna have to open a 401k, IRA, all these other letters that are freaking me out? Like, I always had an aversion to them. Like, what is a 401k? Why are all these numbers? Why don't you just save your money and then keep it for your retirement? You gotta like put it all on all these like tax tax havens, and then you're an annuity, and you're able to take a certain percent of it. Like this is just all just stop it. I can't just,
And you're
so
you're investing you're investing in 5,000 companies and 4,900 of them you've never heard of. And you're like,
yeah.
well, what? I don't know. Are these good companies? I don't know.
So only recently, only in the past like 2 or 3 years, have I become comfortable with the fact that I don't have any of this crap. I don't have a 401k. I don't have any kind of any say. Like every time the government says, "Well, do you want to put it in our pension fund?" I'm like, "No, no, I don't want to put anything in a pension fund. I just want to save my money." And that's why I have a lot of it with gold money, with not with gold money, with monetary metals, right? Oh, now actually they're paying 4% on all gold deposited now immediately. So that's a big improvement. And that's really all I need for my retirement. I have some stocks and some investments, but like the core of it, I'm just going to put it in gold and silver. And then when I'm done working, I'll have all that interest that I accrued thanks to monetary metals. You can either,
Use my link in the description.
you can use Phil's link in the description or my link in the description, depending on which one of us you like more. Um, and it's the fact of gold earning gold in interest is actually it's pretty comforting because then you can just jettison all this other abbreviations and numbers and government plans, which are all going to fall to nothing anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I can 100% confirm all the numbers. The savings are not real. I covered this in my last episode. The savings are not real, the investments are not real, and the yields on the investments are not real. So get
Yeah.
yourself into real money.
Yeah.
Anyone who has listening to us who hasn't done this already, I'm worried. Part of what I'm worried about is that we're just talking to the same libertarian choir the whole time. But I don't know I don't know any other way to reach NPCs except to throw my work out into the ether and hope that NPCs are, the algorithm points them to
Yes,
them.
but people join the libertarian choir in drips. Like there's always new people and we will reach them and we are reaching them. We reach a few people at a time, but you never know. You really do never know. I'm not saying this is like, oh, you never know. I'm saying you literally do not know that the next person that you influence could be the person that changes the world because that happens all the time. See, it's crazy people that you influence are the ones that change things. Like, and we are the idea incubators. We're just like shooting out ideas, hoping that somebody like Trump. Imagine if we were talking to Donald Trump when he was younger and trying to put a little bit of sense into what he does. He has great instincts, but if he just understood money, you could really go far. So hopefully we'll get the next one.
The
Somebody
I made
listening.
a video called the elevator pitch, which I dedicated to a man named Bill, you know who he is, but he's
Yeah,
attention. I had his attention briefly,
yeah.
um, and he is Trump adjacent. So I was trying. I don't think I got through to him, but I was close. I
Hmm.
was like, here's
Well, look, if my guy over here is Moshe Feiglin,
yeah.
if he gets elected, it's a long shot if he gets elected to anything, but we're in an era where really anything could happen for any reason.
That's part of the excitement. Yeah,
Yeah.
the things that were not possible are now possible. So we
Yeah.
need to
So
focus
if he's elected, I will be the head of the Bank of Israel. At that point, I will just close the building and just fire everyone and burn it down. I don't know if they'll give me permission to burn it down. Maybe I'll just sell it off, but yeah.
that would be
I'll try to
glorious.
figure out how to sweep the floors and clean everything up, but I'll prepare everyone for the death of the currency and stock the place with gold and silver and then, divide it based on claims or something.
That would be amazing. If next time we chat, you're in the office of the Central Bank of Israel
Yeah.
instead of your background.
Just setting fires,
Yes. All
Uh,
right, third topic. Third topic. We've covered NPCs. Did you want to
yeah.
do biblical stuff or did you want to do haggling?
Let's do haggling.
All right. So the part of the thing that's going to occur, and this Americans especially, and I hate haggling with every fiber of my being. It's so annoying. But part of the thing that's going to occur is a complete breakdown of the price signal, and to reestablish the price signal, the market determines the price signal through people negotiating what the price is. So when you go to buy a piece of pork or some clean water or a house, whatever. They're gonna say, how much do you want for it? Well, I want 1,000 ounces of silver for this house. No, I can get a mansion in DC for 75 ounces. So I'll tell you what, you're saving me the trip into the war zone of DC. I'll give you 100 ounces, sign on the barrel right now. No, I want 500 ounces. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to walk away. No, wait. Okay, fine. 100 ounces, 100 ounces. It's going to be
Yeah.
the whole spiel, but you're going to be doing that for everything. So you're going to be doing that for, a haircut, for pork roast, whatever, fruit.
Hmm.
And but over the course of that is how the price signal is going to be redetermined. And for Americans are very used to this is, here's your individualized portion wrapped in plastic with preservatives, and this is the price, and take it or leave it. Scan your palm at checkout, and you will now be the proud owner of that thing. So, is the where you are? Is there more haggling around where you are, or is it similar to the Americans situation?
It's similar to the Americans, but
Okay.
there's more haggling here than there is in America. But especially among I used to shop with the Arabs when I lived in the Shomron, and there's a lot more haggling.
Okay.
It's part of their culture much more than here because we're part tribal and part Western. We're like a mix.
Okay. Gotcha. So the more tribal it is, the more haggling there is. That
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. And now, are you like the reason it doesn't appeal to me? I mean, the reason I'm mostly because I'm just not used to it. It's not something I've had to experience it a couple times, and I'm pretty sure I got soaked every time I've had to experience it. Like there was
Mhm.
one time I was in Cancun and I was buying souvenirs, and I thought it was a souvenir shop, but no, it was immediately like, this souvenir, the price said $2 or something. So I went to go buy it, and it's like, oh no, those are $2. This one's $20. I was like, what, $20? So I was like, I realized, oh, we're haggling now, and I think I got it down to like $10 or something. And then instead of giving my change, he offered me like more souvenirs. He's like, have like three or four more souvenirs. And I was like, well, okay, I guess I needed more souvenirs. But then I walked out. I was like, wait, that guy gave me four like junky pieces of plastic for 20 bucks or something. I was like, wow, I got completely soaked.
Yeah.
That was one of those lessons. But like, you get the fast talking and the sweet talking, and suddenly you're like you get overwhelmed by it. Um, it does help reestablish the price signal, like I said, and eventually there will be an expected price. So when you go to buy a car or something, or let's say something more commodity, when you go to buy apples, a bag of apples, you're gonna have an expectation of what that's gonna be. You're not gonna have to haggle over it every time you go to the store. But to start with, I think we're gonna go back to, well, how much do you want these apples for?
Right.
Which, I mean, it's also inefficient because it takes time, and that's part of the game, right? The seller's there all day,
Hmm.
and you got other things you got to do. So he's gonna try and wear you down over that bag of apples, even for as little as 10 cents. 10 cents of today's money, whatever. He'll fight for it.
Right. The I guess what I can add to that is that um, a lack of haggling in an economy is a sign of centralization um, and concentration of capital. That uh, because the economy becomes, I guess the units of it become larger. So when you have like the bigger the store, more set the prices. But if you go to a hole, some hole in the wall, of guys selling like grain out of a sack, then you can probably haggle more. Um, so the inflationary process leads to the centralization of big chunks of the economy by lengthening the structure of production, increasing, capital. So when that breaks down, we're going to have to go into smaller economic units where it's like the more you put a magnifying glass into it, the more you're going to have to haggle to figure out where exactly the level is. But it is going to take a while. I mean, like if the entire structure of production gets broken down and you're going to have to abandon swaths of it and then take all that capital and melt it down for raw materials again, then yeah, you're going to have to rebuild the structure of production from the consumer level back up to the capital level by haggling at every step
Yeah.
of it. Not it's not just haggling on the retail market. It's going to be haggling between that leads me to an even clearer conclusion, right? When you're talking about these big uh mergers, right? let's say, on Wall Street, that's always haggling.
Yeah.
Elon Musk haggling for buying Twitter. It's haggling, but in huge steps of like, billions of dollars. But when
Yeah.
you get to the top of the economic structure, you return to haggling because the amount of people that are able to make these purchases are so few that you got to haggle. On the retail level, it's like 100 million people making these purchases. Everything's so liquid. There's no point in haggling anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm talking about haggling over a bag of apples. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's that's true. No, you're right. And when you're talking about buying a company or even things like buying a car, there's still plenty of haggling.
Yeah.
But I definitely see us reducing to, like I said, haggling over a bag of apples or something like that.
Right, right. So at a car dealership, you're gonna haggle with the salesman, exactly how much you're gonna buy the car for you. Oh, there's the sticker price. That's a good point. There's the sticker price, and then there's like that means that it's not gonna sell for this, right?
Yeah,
Or a house, right? You're haggling over every offer of the house. The bigger
yeah,
you get, the more haggling there is. But when you get to the retail, then it kind of if you're haggling at the retail level, that means that your economy is very decentralized, which could be a good thing or a bad thing depending on what direction you're going in.
yeah. So my concluding thoughts, I guess, to this would be to the viewer. When Rafi has his 75 ounces for a house video, you're gonna have to haggle down to 75 ounces probably. They're gonna start at something that they feel is much more appropriate, but just be ready to walk away because you're like, well, I got 100 other houses to go look at right now, so you can take it or not. You'll have all the, I mean, the holders, the stackers will have all the cards until the silver and gold get distributed. So as long as you maintain that, or as long as you start out with that position, yeah, you should be able to get the house for 75 ounces.
Speaking of that, on this weekend's Endgame Investor Report, the calculation for the amount of free floating silver at the LBMA is 197 million ounces.
That's low, right?
It's low. If there were the same amount of ounces today in all of these silver ETFs combined at Silver Squeeze, that would drain the rest of the float at the LBMA now. It
Oh,
would
so
be
now all we got to do is
zero.
attack it now. People just got to get some silver.
Yeah, the LBMA silver float is at a critical low,
All right, we
197
are
million.
here. All right, this is exciting.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll get the word out myself.
Okay.
All right,
Thanks.
Rafi.
Thanks, Phil. Have a good draft. May it be bitter.
Yeah, you
What
too.
what is what is the what
Oh,
is the bitter draft?
it's a paint. Everyone asked me that. I told you before. It's my favorite painting. It's by Adrian Brower. It's a guy drinking cough medicine.
In my haste, I had grabbed a bottle of the kid's cough syrup. Huh? I don't know the scientific explanation, but fire made it good.
I'll send you the picture. It's the logo. The guy going.
Okay.
"Ugh." It's
Okay.
just
Got it.
very. I don't know why it tickles me pink. I love the painting.
Okay.
I'm drawn to it.
All right. I hope that doesn't mean you're a serial killer like that guy who liked that what was it in the movie Red Dragon?
Oh, the Blake. Yeah, the Blake
Yeah.
painting. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, don't
No.
start eating paintings.